is Cliff Edwards. I moved to the area in 2000. My background is in geology and geophysics, and I worked for a major oil company for most of my career. Well, I started with SOLIR back in 2006, and because it was right after Katrina, I had a lot of people asking me questions about the oil business. So I started answering these, and I went through this long description, and then I'd have somebody else ask the same thing. And so after a while, I began to realize there's a course here, and decided to teach. So my first course was in fall of 2006 on the Oil Business 101. And then the next term I taught it again, and I was asked to run for council, and the rest is history, basically. I got onto the council in 2007, and I was treasurer the first year, and vice president the second year, and then president the third year. So my presidential term was 2009 to 10. That was a period of major transition for us. We went from being a small institution to getting the Osher funds in 2007. The first grant was for $100,000, which doubled our budget and allowed us to pick up the additional classroom space over in rooms D and E. And we also started teaching at Scienceworks, and eventually even in Medford during my tenure. We went from 650 members when I first got on council to over 1,200 members when I left. So it was a huge transition, and a difficult transition for a lot of people and for the organization. People lost their close friends because all of a sudden there were so many new people on campus, so they didn't feel the camaraderie that was there. And the change was so rapid that we just couldn't adapt to it that well. So we did some strategic planning during my time as president, and we decided upon the term, which is getting misused occasionally, but organic growth, where we were not actively seeking to grow anymore, but knew that it was going to expand just by word of mouth. The very first of it, we were still trying to reach a threshold of 1,000 students, because we were told at that point you were eligible for the second $1 million endowment. So that was a target to get to. Once we were there, we said, we don't need to push it anymore. Let's just recoup, get our feet back on the ground, know what we're doing. We actually ended up distributing cards for everybody to hand out on conversations. We started posting flyers, we started advertising, just word of mouth again. It was just trying to get the information out there. We even had people who joined who had no intention of being students here, but they wanted to support the organization. Yeah, it actually happened through the president before I got on council, and that was Bernie Hartman. And Bernie actually wrote a letter of inquiry to the Osher folks saying, we have an institution already of continual learning here. Would you be interested in funding us? And they came back and said, well, there's already one in Oregon, and that was University of Oregon. So they checked with that program first to make sure we would not be competing with them. And they came back and said, yeah, we're interested in talking to you. So that was right as I got onto council, and it came with a check of $100,000. Part of it was just, I liked the smallness of the organization, and that was a difficult transition for a lot of people. But it also provided all sorts of opportunities for us. We ended up having twice as many courses being taught during the 3 years that I was on council, partially because we were growing at twice the rate. The Scienceworks one was sort of a mutual discussion. We had a close friend who was the executive director over at Scienceworks, and talked to him about being able to use the classroom there. And his comment was, yeah, by all means you can do it, but we can't close it off from the rest of the facility because we didn't have doors. And our reaction was, well, we've got this little extra money. We can put the doors in if you'll let us use the classroom. And that's in fact what we did. So it's become a collaborative process with them over the years. It's never been as robust as I've always hoped for. There is such a huge population to be served there, people of age 50 and above, and we've always struggled to grow that population. I think the biggest thing is that we've grown by word of mouth over the years. So where you've got a large group of people that are concentrated in one community, everybody begins to learn about it very quickly. When it's distributed over an area of Medford or Jacksonville or even Grants Pass, it's really hard to get a large group of people that have an interest. And then the second part of it is getting people to teach in that new facility. Ideally, you would want people who want to go to classes in that area, want to teach in that area too. And we've just struggled to get that off the ground. One of the biggest issues for being a council member is commitment of time and effort. It can be a very significant effort. It's also a very rewarding experience because you get to meet so many different people and you get to have your imprint on the council. There are strengths or capabilities that may be unique to certain individuals on council. You need somebody who's got an accounting or treasurer's role. You need somebody who may have a curriculum experience. You need to have people that have been involved in other committees to bring into council. I got roped into it by teaching, and I think that's an excellent way to get involved in the program. Teaching is so different when you're dealing with seniors who've had careers, because there's bound to be somebody in your audience who knows more about the subject than you do. And that's a real learning experience, and you just open up the discussion and it goes to places that you never expected, but it's so useful that way. And the second part of it is that the students that are there because they have a genuine interest in the subject. It's not like it's a college course that I've got to take in order to get my degree. So the interaction between student and teachers is so different in the OLLI organization. If you are not a teacher, and I never thought of myself as a teacher, I never thought there was anything that I could teach that people would be interested in. But if that's not your drawing, look at things of volunteering. There are all sorts of different ways to become involved in the program, not just taking courses. I think there's still growth that's going to happen in the Medford community just because of the word of mouth description. I think the program there is going to grow with more courses, and by having more courses you're going to get more people to come. That's actually a great place for OLLI to expand because we've got as many classrooms as we need. We're not limited to the Campbell Center location. So I think that's going to be the future change for this organization. We're going to do some work here on Campbell Center campus, trying to update the facilities. These are all dormitories from World War II that became student housing and then got moved into classroom space. They're not ideal for classrooms, and there are things that can be done to renovate them. There's going to come a point in which the Ashland community is saturated. Right now, roughly 1 in 10 people in the community is a member of OLLI, of the people that are over 50. I don't know how much more that's going to grow. So it's more of areas that don't know about OLLI today.